All right, here we are again.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Another day, another show.
That's right.
Same orange jacket. No one will notice.
That's right. We didn't do this on the same day.
No, of course not.
Okay, but we finished a show with a very special guest.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Michael Mayerich.
Yes.
He's from Totco, which is a business unit we have here at NOV that handles a lot of our
data, sensors.
Yes, thank you. Suddenly blanked on all the words. But specifically today, we're talking about Totco's service customer support centers.
Right.
Because we highlight a lot of technology on NOV Live, which is awesome.
Right.
But it's almost ignoring the other massive part that NOV does, which is a lot of service.
Right. We make a lot of stuff that those things need to get taken care of, or
trained.
Trained customers have problems in the field. We need to be able to service that as well.
Yeah, and that's something we do. So so today we have Michael Mayerich coming on, and he's going to talk a little bit about the Totco side of service that they do.
Right. It's like this 24/7 basically help center that is there for customers or contractors who are in need of urgent service or urgent care. They get it.
Yep. And it's always fun to hear sort of some of the different situations they have to deal with. The kind of care that goes into it. It's a really, really fascinating topic, so I'm excited to bring that to the people.
All right, let's do it.
Here it is. We have Michael Mayerich here with us today.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what we're here to talk about? I know we're talking about Totco, but...
Yeah, so I think the primary focus right now is the customer support center that we're offering across our global services with MDT, and how we can assist with other business units and help other products grow and utilize some of the support structure that we already have in place in order to try to be more efficient as an overall organization.
Right.
Yeah. And what would you say is the purpose of Totco support when we're looking, or maybe actually I want to go a little bit backwards. Can you talk about what Totco is?
Sure.
When we say that,
that's a good one.
I was like,
that's a good one. Let's start
before
there.
I even talk there, let's start kind of even more further back. What's Totco?
So I'm sure that there's probably definitions vary drastically. From my opinion, it is the organization within NOV that's more data focused. So we create a lot of sensors and different instrumentation products originally at the well site and for drilling rigs, completions, all aspects of it. And then we collect that data, aggregate it on site, but we also provide local visualization. So that way, whenever you see a company man or a rig crew member looking at a screen and navigating it, whether they're doing reports or looking at what's going on in other parts of the rig that they can't physically see, they're typically interacting with an Totco screen.
Okay.
So we provide computers, sensors, all of that across the rig site, aggregate that data back, so that way it's centrally located there, and then we also stream it up to our cloud instances, so you can remote into a rig from anywhere in the world and see what's going on, typically within a second or so of latency.
Wow.
So then we're talking about customer support. I guess what's the purpose of kind of customer support centers?
So our customers are very unique in some of their needs because whenever they're needing to extract data from the rig or a completion site, it usually has a high sense of urgency to it. So they expect to be able to pick up the phone, talk to somebody right away, get the answers that they need, or have us set it up on their behalf. So in order to avoid having to send someone out to a site and do things manually where it might take them 3, 5, 8 hours to get there, if not longer for offshore, we can remote in through internet connections, set it up, configure it, ensure everything's working, make any adjustments to network security that are required, work with the customer as needed to make sure that they're getting the data appropriately and at the correct intervals and everything else that they expect. So we're able to resolve all of that without having to send someone to the site.
That's great.
Yep.
We were talking about the sense of urgency. I think from maybe a layman's standpoint, when you hear customer service, I think it's natural. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I have to going to be on hold forever," and all of that.
That's true.
So I think what's different about NOV's or Totco's customer service that makes it, I guess, a better tool or
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that people enter the customer support side through Totco. There's occasionally where we hire from outside, but a majority of the staff, if not about 75-80%, are existing NOV or Totco employees. So a majority of the time, the people who you're talking to in there have already seen everything at the site that the customer or the technician's looking at, because that's an important part also. Our customers from the support center side aren't just the operators and contractors, but we provide support to field personnel who are out at the site, who may not have the experience with a specific piece of equipment. So they can contact us and we'll guide them through the process, help them along the way, maybe do some tips and tricks that they weren't aware of beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about, so they've seen it before. Is this people that, do they always start out in a support role, or do they start out sort of somewhere else
Like
within MD
even field technician?
Yeah,
Or-
like
anywhere
what-
of the above. So a majority of the current support center came from field technician roles.
Yeah.
So we've got some
That's
guys
helpful,
who,
I bet.
Yep,
Yeah.
were traveling, doing 1414 in West Texas, and they decided, oh, hey, I want to have a family, so I want to be more local. I don't want to travel so much. So we're able to capture that tenure, bring it in, put it in a more office environment, even if it's, working nights or anything else. That way we have that expertise available. We're able to retain that talent.
We just did a project with field service from another business, and the amount of knowledge that
Oh, it's
they
a-
gain by being
Yeah.
that close with the equipment is really remarkable.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. So I bet that's a big factor, a big, important thing to have for somebody who's remote, to be able to talk a customer or a contractor through that type of what can be maybe a complex process.
100%. And that's one of the things that we really look for when we're identifying candidates is, okay, can you close your eyes and visually walk me through something, because you've done it and you know it that well,
Right.
and to help me when you know what screens I'm going to see, what each item looks like. And then we continuously keep new hardware available for these guys and do continuing education for them, so that way they can stay up to speed on the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
So even though they're not in front of it every day on a rig, they still retain that razor sharp edge.
I'm curious. I don't know if this. I'm familiar with. I know we used to have, or maybe we still have, a EHawk Center for.
Up at BAML.
Yeah, but BAML. Is it similar to that? That's the only experience I have in seeing something that's akin to what you're talking about.
Very, very similar. Now, I think similar to everything, the way that it looks has changed a little bit post-COVID,
Okay.
because we loosened it up and didn't require everyone to live in Houston or
Right.
in Cedar Park. So we have, instead of one central customer support center that we used to have in Cedar Park,
Yeah.
we have one in Cedar Park, we have one in BAML, and we're also opening up one in Kochi, India.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very cool.
So that's part of the DTC that's going live.
Right. Right. Very cool.
And I'm wondering, so you mentioned the people having to walk through. Are these, maybe generalizing the folks who are doing the customer support, I imagine, are they kind of problem solver type people, would you say?
You have to be curious in nature, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where you do one step and it may fix the immediate issue, but you know that there's something underlying, and you have to have that curiosity in order to dig deeper, right? There's been a lot of times where you may have a problem with your computer and you reboot it and it goes away. That's great, but we don't want the technician to leave site or get off the phone with the customer and then it happen again. We want to dig down and find that
dive
root
And I
cause.
think you had mentioned, customers, there's a sense of urgency.
Yep.
So I think by nature, you're going to have somebody calling in and be like, I don't know. I just need it to work.
Yep.
Like, I just need this thing. There's
Yeah.
not. So I think, there's got to be some level of curiosity to really dig deep into like, okay, we got to find the problem if it's not, really apparent
Yep.
on its face.
100%. And there's a lot of times where customers will see something that they think is the root cause, and in reality, it will dig deeper and deeper and deeper to find what it actually is. So they may say, my bit weight or my bit position doesn't look accurate.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of different sensors that feed the algorithm for bit position and hole depth.
Right.
So it might be something like a hook load sensor that's out actually.
That's what I was thinking.
that, yeah,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, totally.
so-
Yeah.
right?
That's the first place
that
I
causes
go.
the impact.
we
Yeah.
know. We can visualize it.
Perfect.
For sure.
It's all tied together.
Yeah.
Just think of a giant web.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, and with that, I'm curious on availability because I imagine, from what I know about rigs, it doesn't seem like they stop for much.
Ever?
Yeah, ever.
You don't want to be the reason why they stop.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. So is that kind of, I guess, how does your team have to, meet that kind of availability requirement and whatnot?
No, great question.
something-
So essentially, everybody is pretty much available 24/7. Now we have staffed offices 24/7. We have people working the call, working phones, listening, just waiting for the call to come in so they can
Wow.
jump on it and answer it, as well as emails. And we're currently making some changes to where we can be even more available to our customers, opening up some additional channels for them to reach out.
Oh, yeah, which I'm helping with on some of those. I know.
Yes, you
yeah.
are.
That's a side.
You're so excited. About it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and so now I'm curious, what on I guess on the service, what are people calling y'all for? What different services of customer support do y'all offer?
Okay, so really we have a large genre of products that we probably don't want to get into today. That's going to be a series of calls by itself. But overall, we have a few different specialties that we keep, as well as some general folks. So the people who came in from MD Totco Field Support, those guys are kind of the core support that we call our tiered support. So basically there's different tier levels based on what their knowledge is. And then they can continue learning and growing in order to advance through those tiers as their career matures with NOV. But then we also have people who have very specific skill sets that we can't always hire internally. Network administrators and engineers, drilling performance engineers, data scientists, and those types of real specialized backgrounds that they may not understand drilling, but they understand that one thing.
Right,
So
right.
then you wind up having to really leverage the team aspect so that way they can reach out to the other guys who are in the same group looking for guidance. Okay, now I've identified this problem, but how is it impacting these other things? So then they kind of work together in order to solve the problem.
It's making me think, like, we just had a conversation about earlier today about data and analytics. AI was thrown around just a little bit. We didn't really get into it, but I'm curious what your thought is on with things getting what I would assume to be more hands off with with AGI, and like machine learning and things be able to do things for themselves. How do you see personal service becoming even more important? Or how do you see this service type of industry or this service
Support.
Yes, the support changing as that becomes maybe more of as AI or something that's more hands off becomes more of a norm?
So I think it's going to become more specialized. It seems like AI and even something as simple as scraping some of the text from the transcripts from calls and the email requests that come in for support, we're able to do some of the more basic things, automatically today.
I haven't heard that one.
Resetting passwords and
That's
those
funny.
types of things to identify those and kind of steer people towards a more self-service model.
Yeah.
That way it leaves our technicians to work on the more specialized things that actually require their knowledge.
Right.
So I don't foresee us being able to get all the way away from that
Right.
100% just because there's such a custom element to what we do.
Right, I was
because
seeing
the
as-
data sources vary for every rig.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it might become even more important.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
to
that
have this type of support.
100%. And with changes in cybersecurity policies and everybody having to become more strict in secondary authentications and those types of things, the need for a centralized team to handle those types of responsibilities
Yeah.
is critical.
Yeah.
And I know that we have to go through regular security audits for our different applications, and we have to prove that there's only so many people that have access to certain elements. And
God, it's so
how it all works
complex.
together. Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Organized chaos.
That's how I live my life. That's what I tell everyone. It might look chaotic, but it's organized, So are there any stories? I feel like when I've talked to support teams before, there's sometimes like, oh man, we did this one thing one time. Do you have any kind of stories from or interesting ways we've supported customers before? It could even be maybe something you do often.
Yeah, I mean, so we're really starting to offer a lot of neat services that we didn't think about in the past. So one of the current ones, I think, is Data Concierge, where
Sounds special.
Yeah, I
right?
like that title.
It's-
That's
I'll
nice.
take one of those.
I'm curious who came up with the title for that one.
Yeah, it's nice.
So basically, we will take some contextual data for a customer and enter it into a system on their behalf, and then monitor the inputs and outputs to make sure that everything is working as it should. So it's essentially a white glove service where they don't have to worry about how the different data sets are going to get from point A to point B to point C and so forth.
Right.
So
That's really cool.
Yeah. What do you, so I know you talked a little bit about kind of AI looking into the future, but kind of general crystal ball for what are you expecting to see from the customer support centers sort of looking into the future?
So I'm really hoping that we're able to get something more similar to where we can see what the customer sees. I know that we've touched on that with some other products. I know Rig has something called Tracker Vision that's very similar, and you've got the augmented reality, right? And as bandwidth is becoming more and more plentiful, we're not as restricted as what we were with the VSAT days where you had like 5 KB each way. I think that we'll be able to stream that and help customers even more remotely.
Right.
Because let's face it, the pool of people that we're able to hire for the remote or for the on-site jobs is becoming smaller and smaller. So we're needing to figure out a way to automate that and to help people kind of control their own destiny. So if we can give the rig manager a VR headset with our product, and he's able to connect to us, throw it on his head, and it automatically connects him to a support center agent.
Totally.
And then we're able to walk him through it. He can see exactly what he should be seeing. I think that'll be a really interesting path to take.
Yeah. What'd you say is like the, I guess, number one driving force, number one goal of the customer support teams? When they get a call, what does it kind of all go back to?
Primarily, how can we prevent it from happening again? Because I feel like anytime a customer has to call us, unless it's to order more product, it's an inconvenience, and we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So how can we mitigate it to where, okay, that box is checked, it won't happen again. Now, how can we expand it across?
So you're actually trying to maybe put yourself out of a job.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
It's an unfortunate. No, I'm just
No,
joking, but that makes sense.
Whether we're looking at stuff reactively or proactively, we're
Right.
still having to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm good with focusing on the proactive side and dealing with less upset people.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because when I have to call in, I'll say unnamed cell phone service company. I don't know that they have that same goal. So I think from a customer standpoint, I'm sure they appreciate that y'all are actually thinking of how can y'all not have to call us again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
Totally.
Well, man, thank you so much. This has been this is
appreciate it.
fascinating. I think-
Enlightening. Yeah.
Yeah, we
No,
talked,
same.
like you said, about data analytics. I'm learning not to say big data. We have learned that that's kind of an outdated term.
That's right.
So we're
It's a
testing.
no-no.
We're learning. But yeah, we had that in kind of hearing from the customer standpoint about data. I think it's really interesting as well.
What about data wrangling? Is that still a buzzword?
Ooh, I don't know, but I like it's rodeo season here in
There
Houston.
There you go.
wrangling?
Get after it.
Yeah, can that be another event at the Houston Rodeo Data? It's just a bunch of people on computers
wait.
on the
Are you
field.
serious?
Like a
Is that a thing?
hackathon.
Yeah, is it?
No, it's
Is
people.
it?
I've
Oh.
actually heard people using it.
Okay, what is it?
That's awesome.
Honestly, I believe it's collecting data from a wide array of sources. Don't quote me on that. It's just kind of my interpretation of
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Okay.
Data Cowboys. I like
Okay.
it.
Call it wrangling now,
It's Texas.
or just
Yeah, absolutely.
depends on where you're doing it. If you're
My
here.
vote's for wrangling, for
Okay.
sure. Absolutely.
I like wrangling.
Don't we all?
Awesome.
Okay. Cool.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem.